Echoes Hugh. Audio Productions. Smooth, sweet sounds. Echoes Hugh Audio Productions proudly presents a J.S. Mensah audio work.
Welcome to the Sporting Field of Play podcast show. This is the History Edition with me, George Soper. Before we get started, a quick reminder to subscribe to Echoes Hugh Audio Productions by following us on social media for more updates and exclusive content. And if you enjoy this show, then please give us a like and write us a review. Hello sports fans and podcast show fans. Welcome to another episode of our pod where we delve into the rich history of the world's various sports and analyse some of the greatest players and participants.
Ladies and gentlemen.
And now, for the moment you've all been waiting for.
In today's episode, we're embarking on a journey through the evolution of boxing, from its brutal bare-knuckle beginnings to the high-stakes, glitzy spectacles we see today. Let's kick things off with the origins of boxing. The sport we know today has roots that stretch back thousands of years. Ancient civilizations like the Egyptians, Greeks and Romans all practiced forms of pugilism, though the rules and styles varied significantly. In ancient Greece, boxing was a popular part of the Olympic Games as early as 688 BC. Fighters wrapped their hands in leather straps and fought without rounds, continuing until one man couldn't go on. The Romans took this a step further, often fighting to the death in brutal gladiatorial contests. Imagine the roar of the crowd in the Colosseum as gladiators fought for survival. It was a far cry from the sport's more regulated form today, but these early contests laid the groundwork for the sport we now call boxing. Fast forward to the 18th and 19th centuries in England, birthplace of modern boxing. This was the era of bare-knuckle boxing, where fighters like the legendary Jack Broughton and Tom Cribb became national heroes. There were no gloves, few rules, and fights often lasted for hours. Jack Broughton, known as the father of boxing, introduced the first set of formalised rules in 1743, aiming to make the sport safer. These Broughton's rules prohibited hitting a downed opponent and introduced a 30-second count to resume the fight. This was a pivotal moment, marking the start of boxing's evolution into a more regulated sport. The next major milestone came in 1867 with the introduction of the Marquis of Queensberry rules, which are still largely used today. These rules mandated the use of gloves, established 3-minute rounds, and introduced a 10-second count for knockouts.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, knockout!
The gloves not only protected fighters' hands, but also shifted the focus towards skill and technique over brute force. This period saw the rise of great champions like John L. Sullivan, the last bare-knuckle and first gloved boxing heavyweight champion. His transition symbolised the sport's shift towards a more modern, spectator-friendly form. Now let's move into the 20th century, often referred to as the golden age of boxing. This era gave us iconic figures like Jack Dempsey, Joe Louis, of course, Muhammad Ali. These athletes transcended the sport, becoming cultural and political icons. Today, we're focusing on the real Italian stallion himself, Rocky Marciano. Rocky Marciano, an undefeated powerhouse who reigned supreme in the 1950s. I'm talking about none other than the Brockton blockbuster. Marciano wasn't just a great fighter, he was a symbol of determination, resilience, and the unyielding spirit of a true champion. For the next few minutes, we'll explore the life, career and legacy of this legendary heavyweight. So lace up your gloves and let's step into the ring. Rocky Marciano was born Rocco Francis Marchigiano on September 1st, 1923 in Brockton, Massachusetts, to Italian immigrant parents. Growing up during the Great Depression, Rocky's early life was marked by hardship and a working-class ethos that would define his approach to boxing. He wasn't born with a silver spoon, and that made him hungrier, literally and figuratively. As a young man, Rocky worked various jobs. He was a ditch digger, a shoe factory worker, and even had a brief stint in the army during World War II. But his passion for sports, especially boxing, was undeniable. Rocky started his athletic journey as a baseball player, but eventually found his true calling in the ring. Rocky's boxing career officially began in 1947 when he turned pro at the age of 24, relatively late by boxing standards. He wasn't the tallest or the heaviest fighter, standing at 5'10.5" and fighting around 185 pounds. But what he lacked in size, he made up for with sheer power, stamina and an iron will. In the very start, Marciano showed a relentless fighting style. His punches were like sledgehammers, and he had an incredible ability to absorb punishment and keep moving forward. Early in his career, he fought under the name Rocky Mac to avoid his Italian name being mispronounced, but soon enough, the name Rocky Marciano would be on everyone's lips. Marciano quickly built a reputation as a knockout artist. Out of his first 16 fights, 15 ended with his opponents on the canvas. But it wasn't just the knockouts that set Marciano apart, it was his determination. He didn't care about how many rounds it took, how tired he was or how badly he was hurt, he kept coming forward. In 1951, Marciano faced his toughest opponent yet, Joe Louis, a former heavyweight champion and a boxing legend in his own right. Though Louis was past his prime, he was still a formidable fighter. Marciano, in what was both a passing of the torch and a bittersweet moment in boxing history, knocked Louis out in the 8th round, effectively ending the career of the Brown Bomber and cementing his own place in boxing lore. Finally, in 1952, after 42 consecutive wins, Rocky Marciano got his shot at the heavyweight title. He faced Jersey Joe Walcott, a crafty veteran known for his tricky style and powerful punch. The fight was a gruelling battle, with Marciano being knocked down for the first time in his career. In the 13th round, Marciano delivered what is considered one of the most devastating punches in boxing history, a right hand that knocked Walcott out cold, securing the heavyweight title for Marciano. Rocky Marciano went on to defend his title 6 times against some of the best heavyweights of the era, including Ezard Charles and Archie Moore. Each fight showcased his relentless style, his ability to take a punch, and his unmatched power. Marciano's reign was characterised by his determination to remain unbeaten. He was never outworked, never outlasted, and never outpunched. One of the most famous defences came in a rematch against Ezard Charles in 1954. Marciano's nose was split open and the fight was close to being stopped, but Rocky refused to quit. He came back with a vengeance, knocking Charles out in the 8th round and proving once again why he was champion. By 1955, at the age of 31, Marciano had done it all. He retired with an unblemished record, 49 wins, 43 of those by knockout. He remains the only heavyweight champion to retire undefeated, a record that stands to this day. Rocky Marciano's legacy extends far beyond his record. he's remembered as the quintessential example of heart, determination, and the power of the human spirit. Even though some critics argue that he didn't face the strongest era of heavyweights, no one can deny the impact he had on the sport. Marciano's influence can be seen in countless fighters who came after him, from the way they trained to the way they fought. He inspired a generation of boxers and remains a benchmark for what it means to be a champion. He was a fighter's fighter, never the most technically refined, but always the toughest man in the ring. Sadly, Rocky's life was cut short in 1969 when he died in a plane crash the day before his 46th birthday, but his legend lives on. His story is a testament to what can be achieved through hard work, dedication, and an unbreakable will. Moving forwards, Muhammad Ali, with his dazzling footwork, sharp wit, and unapologetic stance on social issues, revolutionised boxing. His trilogy of fights with Joe Frazier, particularly the thriller in Manila, are etched into boxing lore. This era also saw the rise of television, bringing boxing into living rooms across America. The drama of the sport, combined with larger-than-life personalities, captivated audiences and made boxing one of the most popular sports in the world. As we move into the modern era, boxing has continued to evolve. The sport has seen a surge in popularity with the rise of pay-per-view events, global superstars like Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, and now the emergence of social media influencers stepping into the ring. The introduction of advanced training techniques, nutrition and sports science has transformed how fighters prepare and compete. There's also been a push towards greater safety with improved medical protocols and more stringent rules. Looking ahead, the future of boxing seems bright. New platforms like streaming services are making fights more accessible to fans worldwide, and the sport continues to grow in markets like Asia and the Middle East. As we wrap up, it's clear that boxing has come a long way from its ancient origins. Its ability to adapt and evolve has kept it relevant and exciting through the centuries. Whether you're a die-hard fan or a casual observer, the stories and history of boxing offer something for everyone. Before we go, let's take a few questions from some of our listeners. So our first question is from Michael today. Would Marciano have beaten Muhammad Ali? Thanks for the question, Mike. This is a great question and it comes up a lot for boxing fans. And they did a simulated fight, I think, when Marciano died, because I think Ali had just retained the title. He was trying to retain the title. Because 69 would have been about the time of the when Vietnam was at its height. I think with Marciano, who's one of my personal favourites, heart says yes, head says no. I think it depends. It's like anything, really. If they both fought in their prime, I would have gone for Muhammad Ali. But the most important thing with Muhammad Ali, which people often don't mention, I find, is Ali didn't actually fight in his prime. He lost the world title just as he was coming into it, obviously because of his refusal to be drafted into the Vietnam War. So how good Muhammad Ali really was, we don't actually know. So, I think I would probably go with Muhammad Ali. And again, boxing at that standard, I mean, obviously now fighters go to 6'10", 6'11", Tyson Fury, people like that. But even back then, Ali was 6'3". If you get caught with one of those guys at that standard, you're going to go over. And I think Ali would have had enough. I think Ali would have won that on points, definitely. So our next question comes from James. Thanks for this, James. Would Tyson have beaten Muhammad Ali? This is another one. It's always Marciano Ali or Tyson Ali. I think Tyson could have beaten Ali in that first baddest man on the planet era. With the black trunks, the red gloves, and when he's got those mad eyes and he just used to knock people out in about 10 seconds. But again, it's really tough because Ali defeated his era's equivalent of Tyson in Sonny Liston, who was a fantastic puncher, very powerful. Obviously, Tyson's a lot better working on the inside than Liston was because he was a little bit shorter than Sonny Liston was. But I think early Mike Tyson would have had a chance. But unfortunately, it's a bit of a boring answer. But the taller man, if the taller man does what they should do, a little bit like with football, if the better side plays their game and passes the ball and uses it well, they should win. And Ali working off the jab, I would say 7 or 8 times out of 10 would probably beat Mike Tyson. And lastly, this question comes from Harry. Is the modern era of boxing comparable in terms of skill with 70s and 80s boxing stars? Good question. I think depends on the weight class. Again, like Tyson was champion, and I think Tyson was around 5'10", 5'11". And then you've got people like Tyson Fury, and I think Fury's like pushing 7 foot. So they probably wouldn't even be in the same weight class today. So it's a tough question. I think just keeping it focused on the heavyweight category for the sake of arguments. I think Tyson Fury could mix it in that era with people like Fraser and Muhammad Ali and people like that. And maybe someone like Lennox Lewis, if you want to keep it this side of the century, the 21st century. But, I mean, people like Deontay Wilder, yeah, they're just not my cup of tea. I think if you put Wilder in a ring with someone like a young Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, even going back to people like Joe Louis in the 30s, I just think it wouldn't even be a conversation. They're not great boxers. The only great boxer I would say is Tyson Fury. And I know originally I'd say I'd keep it to weight categories, but I think middleweights would be a really interesting one. If you put someone like Floyd Mayweather in that era, 70s, 80s, Manny Pacquiao, that'd be great to watch because you can only beat who's in front of you. And Mayweather, I think, dodged Pacquiao for a long time. But, you know, as a rule, I think Mayweather technically, probably Mayweather or Sugar Ray Robinson is the best boxer of all time. But again, very, very boring to watch. Mayweather is brilliant, but it's like watching Manchester City. Fantastic, but very boring. You know what's going to happen. So 70s and 80s definitely a better era, but there are one or two who could have hacked it, yeah. And that's a wrap for today's episode. Thanks for joining me on this History Edition journey. Tune in next week on Tuesday for the next episode. Until then, keep competing, guys. Yours, Georgie Boy.
Thanks for listening to an Echoes Hue audio productions project. Smooth, sweet sounds. Don't forget to subscribe to Echoes Hue Audio Productions by following us on social media for more updates and exclusive content. And if you enjoy the show, then please give us a like and write us a review. The Sporting Field of Play History Edition is written and presented by George Soper. The podcast is directed and produced by J.S. Mensah. Our theme music is by Vitaly Vakulenko.